This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, from Philadelphia to Erie and from Scranton to Pittsburgh, it's Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenawalt, Senior Fellow of the Susquehanna Valley Center of Public Policy, and I'm joined by my co-host, Maura Donley. Maura, fresh from New York City.
Yes, I am.
Oh my gosh, you surved.
I did. Lived to tell.
The Pennsylvania Society.
Yes, I did. Another year.
Any news for the unwashed masses?
Pretty much everything's the same. Nobody knows where anything stands. That's where things are. So
oh my goodness.
It was a good weekend. A lot more people than the last couple of years. So it was really nice to see. People are back.
This was a study in contrast. Maura was at the New York Society, and our producer, Cliff, and our president, Ed Arnold, and myself, we went to Braddock, Pennsylvania, so that we could spend an hour. Mr. Fetterman said, if you can spend an hour, you're tough. And he said, Dr. Oz couldn't spend an hour there. Well, we spent 4 hours there, so we must be super tough.
Why?
So
Why?
We now know Braddock from end to end.
It's not that big.
Oh, it's not that big, and we'll have future reports on
Okay.
Braddock. Keep your TV tuned.
I cannot
We
wait.
have news for you. But today we have news about agriculture,
Yes,
and
we
it's
do.
exciting news. We do not do enough agricultural reports, considering agriculture is the #1 industry in Pennsylvania.
That's correct.
We are lucky to have with us today to talk about a brand new initiative, Larisa Miller. Larisa is the president and the CEO of Keystone Farm
Future.
I'm sorry. This is so exciting to have you with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. And you're joined by Dave Zimmerman, who is a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives from Lancaster County. Welcome, Dave.
Good to
We're
be
so
here.
happy to have both of you here. You have been working together, and you've started something brand new in Pennsylvania, new and exciting, and could be very profitable for Pennsylvania farmers. Do you want to, the two of you, take turns and lay out the basic framework, and then Maura and I will jump in and ask you some few questions.
Sure, I'd be happy to start if that's all right.
go ahead.
Absolutely.
I grew up on a farm in Lebanon County, started my career at the Department of Agriculture many, many years ago, and had the pleasure to work around the world for many, many years, with agriculture being one of my main priorities. Always thinking back to Pennsylvania and how we can do things potentially differently that will allow us to create a greater market share, security for our farmers. And the one thing that I can tell you is that around the world, we still farm under a grow and hope model, where we plant our seeds and we raise our livestock and we hope we get a good price when we go to sell it. And that model in 2022 no longer makes sense to me. So I thought there had to be a way to do it a little bit differently, to be able to secure our food supply chain, with food security being our #1 global concern. 2 weeks ago, we hit a major milestone in the world. We topped a population of 8 billion, so we've got a lot of mouths to feed, and that depends on agriculture.
Got to stop you, and then I'm turning on. It's Maura's turn. What was wrong with that model? You said that model for agriculture wasn't sufficient. What was wrong with it?
Well, there's no surety in that, especially for the farmer. I mean, when you're raising and you don't have a set market at the end, you're dependent on whatever the price is at the end, or wherever you can find a market for your goods. And in places like Africa, that's a really big challenge. And, I thought that if we could find a way to secure the offtake and give some transparency to the supply chain, we'd have something really wonderful. And Representative Zimmerman and I sat down a few years ago, and I said to him, Dave, I've had this crazy idea, and I think we can do it with beef. I think it'll allow us to impact our struggling dairy farmers. You go up to the northern tier and you see empty dairy farms everywhere. And I thought, these farmers have an understanding of a ruminant animal, which is what cattle are. They have the barns, they have the silos, they have the knowledge. And, we really need to make sure we're giving farmers a reason to stay in agriculture. So I thought, if we could work with a supermarket and secure the supply chain, secure the offtake so we know exactly how much the supermarket needs on their shelves on a weekly basis, and then we build the herd specifically to fill that need. The supermarket owns the herd. We manage it all the way from calf to finished product, and then we place those animals on Pennsylvania farms, both beef farms and transitioning dairy farms, and pay the farmers a set price per pound weight of gain where they know exactly how much they're going to get. We give the farmer the surety of what they're going to get at the end. The supermarket has surety of supply. They have a very narrow and transparent supply chain, so they know everyone that has been in the process of raising and growing their beef. And the supermarket can look at their consumer and say, we're truly giving you a high quality, locally produced product.
Was this a tough sell?
No, so it's not a tough sell really, because what was happening in Lancaster County, for example, right in my district, from about 2014 to 2020, we were faced with very low milk prices. And so what's happening is we have so many of these small farms that are only 40, 50, 60 acres. And so they had these small dairies, and that just wasn't being profitable enough to keep that farm going. So this concept is a great one, because they started selling their dairy cows, and they still have pastures. Now they have an empty barn. They have silos, and so what they could do is bring these beef cattle in, and it's a little bit less labor intensive. So they get a job off the farm, and then they manage this beef herd, in the evenings and weekends, and so it's really a win-win-win when you look at what transpired here. So
And then
great concept.
In walks Carnes Quality Foods, and
So Carnes,
they're known for their beef.
they are.
Everybody
And-
goes there for their
And
beef.
as this all came together, and first of all, most everybody I told this idea to said, great idea, it'll never work. It's the most complex industry in agriculture. Well, watch me, and I'm a woman in agriculture, so I could still fly a
took
little
that
bit
challenge.
under the radar here. And we pulled all of the ends together in the middle, and Carnes seemed like a very natural fit. So, I reached out to Andrea Carnes and said, hey, I have a crazy idea, bear with me. And she said, look, I love that, let me talk to my dad. And before you knew it, Carnes was on board, and we are providing Carnes their locally grown, high quality beef. And
Let me ask you a question before we move on to how this is actually going to work. But where did Carnes get their beef before this program went into place? Where'd they get it?
So, like
Everywhere?
every supermarket, there's beef distributors out
Okay,
there.
so they
that-
went to the major distributors. Okay, because they were known for their beef. I wondered how it differed from other supermarkets in the
No,
area.
I mean, it's like anything. You have, you can buy the Cadillac or you can buy the Yugo,
Yeah.
and Carnes, beef has always
Went and
been
bought-
such an
okay.
important part of what they do. And we hope we've even helped to accelerate that for them. But it's very important that we recognize that we're never going back to normal, because normal was the problem. And we have to find ways to keep agriculture viable, especially for Pennsylvania, find ways to accelerate agriculture in Pennsylvania, and also ways to essentially disrupt that legacy business model so we can make it attractive for young farmers to want to come into agriculture and stay in agriculture for generations. And it's going to be models like this that give them the security that will allow them to find this to be an attractive proposition.
Dave, what role did the state agriculture department or the state legislature and the agriculture committees play in this?
So yeah, we didn't play a huge role in it. However, we kind of introduced the idea to several legislators and to the ag department, and they were very interested in what's going on, and we even had some meetings upstate with Representative Greenawalt, and so there was considerable interest in it. And the hard reality is this is a program and a concept that we should really be looking at other sectors as well, because if it can work for beef, it should be able to work for for other areas as well. When you think about us being removed from agriculture by about 6 generations, think about 6 generations takes us back to like 1900, and at that point everybody had at least an uncle that was still on the farm. today we're so far removed, and yet there's this huge interest in knowing where our food comes from. And that's, I think, a really, really important part of this concept as well, because now we, Carnes can honestly say it's locally grown beef, and that's huge to help make this whole thing work as well.
Oh, and we RFID tag each and every one of our animals, so we can completely certify everything from veterinary care to nutrition to the care and comfort, biosecurity, the animal welfare. We can stand up to all of that.
And you're going to get the PA preferred
We are.
stamp?
It is the first PA preferred beef in a supermarket.
Now, we have to ask you, though, you're getting the beef initially from Virginia and West Virginia. So why not get the beef from Pennsylvania?
Great question.
Great question.
Great question.
Yeah.
So our feeder calves come in from Virginia and West Virginia. Pennsylvania just doesn't have the cow-calf capacity to meet the volume needs that we are buying from. And there's no reason that Pennsylvania can't. With our rolling pasture lands in the western side of the state, our knowledge of agriculture, we have New Holland Sales Barn, which is the largest sales barn east of the Mississippi. There's no reason that Pennsylvania can't be an end-to-end solution. And for Keystone, we are committed to building this program within Pennsylvania all the way from, horrible way of saying it, but from semen to shelf. Looking at the genetics, it's agriculture. It is what it is.
So the first generation of this will, but future generations will be all Pennsylvania grown. So this
We're
is just to
working
get
down.
the program going. And
So we actually have bulls in our program now. We're working on the genetic side of it so that we can start to build the quality and capacity of farms in the western side of the state so we can have cow-calf.
So Carnes was, during COVID, having some supply chain issues as well, weren't they? I would imagine this makes them feel pretty happy that they have some sense of security in
Well, under this
knowing
model,
this is going to work well for them in the future.
the supermarket knows what they're going to have on their shelves next week, next month, next year.
Yeah.
And going into this next year, we're facing a big beef shortage coming because of the droughts that we had this past summer and so forth, rising beef costs, and if we don't get a lot of snow in the Sierra Nevadas, we're going to have this problem again next summer. And that's critical to our food supply. And so this is one way to mitigate that. And to Dave's point, you can do this with apples, you can do it with carrots, you can do it with anything. If you understand what you need on your shelves, you plant, you build, you grow to meet that need.
I hope
And so
other
many-
industries find you after they see this and
yeah.
ask for your help. I'm sorry.
Well,
please.
so many of our meat dealers, so to speak, are really relying on Western beef. So when we have this drought issue in the West, there's no guarantee that source will be there. Where this is a guarantee, and it's local.
We're going to need more cowboys. Yeah, I mean, they're all
There
out
you go.
west right now. They're going to come to Pennsylvania now.
Could you expand this into, there's a growing number of buffalo herds in Pennsylvania. Could you expand it to buffalo as well?
Well, you certainly could, but beef is a mainstream part of our diet and cuisine. It can be applied to any of the more niche markets for sure. And it doesn't just have to be in Pennsylvania. That Pennsylvania preferred seal, which is one of the only ones in the country that is backed by a legislative act, should really be a testament to all the other states, the surrounding states, that when you buy something with that seal on it, you are getting something that was grown on a small family farm, and recognize that we all have to be a part of this together. And that's really what we want to be able to do, is not just have this in Pennsylvania, but make Pennsylvania the vanguard of a new way of farming beef and agriculture for the whole United States.
Yeah, and I go ahead.
Quick last question, if you could incorporate it in what you're going to say. Are the Amish and Mennonite communities in on this as well?
Oh yeah, and so many of the small farms in Lancaster County are really owned by the Plain community. So this is an opportunity that they have for their small farms, and kind of keep that farm in farming rather than being developed, which there's tremendous pressure on that. But I believe going forward, you know, our state has an opportunity going into a new session, a new 2-year session, to really take a good look and get involved in the whole food supply chain and the whole food security area. It's huge, and I think it needs to be a priority going into the next 2-year session.
Okay, we want to ask more, and I would love to ask you if you'd please come back in about 6 to 9 months and give us a report on how the project
Happy
is
to do
going.
so.
I think our viewers would like to know as well.
Happy to do so.
Thank you both for joining us today.
Pleasure.
We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors, the largest, most influential municipal association in the Commonwealth. Since 1921, PSATS has been preserving and strengthening township government and securing greater visibility and involvement for townships in the state and federal political arenas. Covering 95% of Pennsylvania's land mass, townships represent 5.5 million residents, more than any other type of political subdivision in Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, by the Edward H. and Jeannie Arnold Foundation, and by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Visit pahighwayinfo.org.
Hi, welcome back to Behind the Headlines. On this segment of Behind the Headlines, Maura and I are fortunate enough to continue to talk about the topic of agriculture in Pennsylvania, and we want to bring in another expert in our Commonwealth. We want to bring in Chris Herr. He is the Executive Vice President of PennAg. You've been with us before, and we really enjoyed talking with you before, Christian. But could you remind our viewers what PennAg is?
Sure. Really pleasure to be here this afternoon or this morning. PennAg represents the agribusiness community of Pennsylvania. About 500 agribusiness companies, about 100% of the hogs and chickens in Pennsylvania, all the infrastructure that supports them, the feed companies, the trucking companies, the seed and inputs. We have an aquaculture council. So again, the infrastructure that supports Pennsylvania's #1 industry in the agribusiness community are generally part of PennAg Industries.
And I don't think we can say that enough, Charlie, that agriculture is the #1 industry in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure everybody realizes that, but you know, it's significant. Jobs, everything.
It is. You know, we're proud of that, and we sort of take ownership of that. There are very many important industries. We align closely with the energy industry here in Pennsylvania, of course, healthcare, those parts of it. But yeah, we're the tradition of being Pennsylvania's #1 industry has been here a long time.
Well, you not only are involved with PennAg, of course, but you have a background in state government as well, don't you?
I was fortunate. Spent 18 years at the Department of Agriculture. Sam Hayes was my mentor, who was the majority leader of the House of Representatives and also the Secretary of Agriculture. I think I served between 5 and 6 different governors. So I have a long history, a proud history of serving Pennsylvania at the Department of Agriculture.
So when you were here before, the big hot issue was the avian influenza challenges that Pennsylvania was facing at the time. How are things going? Can you give us an update? It's not headline news right now, but I suspect it's still an issue.
Right. Yeah, it has just become America's #1 animal health outbreak in our country's history. So it's significant. 46 states in America have been affected.
Oh my goodness.
Over 50 million head of birds have been put down. And here in Pennsylvania, we have had a number of different cases. Almost 4.5 million birds of that 50 million have been here. That could be a lot worse, though. I mean, we count our blessings. We've had great support from our Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Animal Health, the Secretary. Our legislature is the only legislature in the country who stepped up with a recovery package for those farmers. So a lot to be proud of. Still, vigilant. Our industry, has really stepped up in what is arguably the most poultry-dense area of America. So it could be a lot worse, but it still is ongoing.
And you feel that mitigation efforts were helpful?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Biosecurity is the #1 word in agriculture anywhere, whether you're dealing with hogs or cattle. or poultry, keeping those animals safe from the outside world. Pennsylvania is a lot more vulnerable. We're within a day's drive of about 150 million people. People are coming from all over the world through our airports and our ports, and they're right, they're very close to the ag community. Lancaster County, 550,000 people, and the #1 non-irrigated ag county in America. 75% of that agriculture is animal agriculture. So we're very vulnerable, but we've been very much ahead of the curve as it relates to biosecurity and preparation, and I believe that's paid off.
This avian flu, did this, and maybe I asked you this last time as well, I don't remember, did this not only affect chickens, but did it affect geese and turkey and other types of fowl operations?
It has. No poultry has really been out of its aim. Turkeys, we have a large duck flock in Pennsylvania, so we've had a lot of ducks that have gone down. Broilers and our laying hens. So it has hit all segments. We even have a fairly large game bird industry in Pennsylvania. Haven't had a flock hit there yet, but some other parts of the country have lost significant amounts of game birds.
If this is in 46 states, is the federal government doing anything, stepping in, helping?
Federal government is very involved. USDA has strike forces that come in and help with depopulation, composting, and cleanup. It has become a very costly effort. Well over $1 billion so far have been spent by the federal government on indemnification and the process of depopulation and cleaning up. But it's been a costly health outbreak.
Does PennAg have one or two major initiatives at this point, programs that you are interested in pursuing? Could you talk about those, Chris?
Sure. Our #1 priority in coming on the heels of avian influenza is animal health, protecting our swine herd, our cattle herds, our poultry flocks, our aquaculture, our deer herds, all fall into agriculture. And we work very closely with our legislature, and the governor has really stepped up over the last 8 years, providing the resources. We have a great laboratory system. We're fortunate to have a tripartite system. We have a laboratory at New Bolton Center, which is the University of Pennsylvania. We have one at Penn State, which is our land-grant institution, and we have one at our ag department. So the investment that has been made in protecting our livestock has been significant and has come from both the executive branch and the legislative branch to make sure we're in that position. And so that really raises above when 75% of our ag economy is animal agriculture. Making animal health our #1 priority has, really at the top of our list. Other issues, obviously the costs of everything has gone up. Freight. Most of our members are running truck fleets, so with diesel fuel, just availability, supply chain issues have been immense. Coming out of COVID. So it's been a really challenging, couple of years. You throw the lack of a workforce in there, and, we feel very fortunate. I always like to say it's great to wake up with a hot breakfast and a warm house, so energy and agriculture have a lot in common and a lot of the same challenges.
Let me stop you right there. That was a question I was definitely going to ask. Based upon our acquaintance with the Mason-Dixon farm in the past, and Dick Waybright, who was a major force in Pennsylvania agriculture, and he was a major force in making his farm energy self-sufficient by using the manure as a source of energy. How far has that technology spread through the farming community across Pennsylvania to use the waste products of the cattle or of the animals to generate gas, which they then use to power all the energy needs of the farm?
Right. Mr. Waybright and Mason-Dixon's farm really revolutionized the digester. We have many of them throughout Pennsylvania, especially in the dairy industry. And working with some of the other energy is incredibly important. You see a lot of solar on top of our barns. You have these big roofs and what have you. Solar has been a big part of it, and quite frankly, natural gas has changed the dynamic in different parts of Pennsylvania. Many of those farms have wellheads on them, and critically important to their livelihood. So, energy and agriculture again go hand in hand.
So last year you made the difficult decision not to attend the Pennsylvania Farm Show, which is it's coming up again.
It is.
Will PennAg be there this year?
Yeah, PennAg will be there this year. We made a very difficult decision last year based on incredible amounts of cases going up. We rely heavily on our membership to man our food booth.
Okay.
They're very loyal. They want to come in and help. But then they have to go back to their companies and make sure that they can move food and ag products. And we did not want to put them in a position of, into a high probability of getting COVID and missing some days of work and not being able to move the supply chain. So we made that tough decision.
What's your food product at your
So we have
I love going there. So
the chicken sandwiches, the pulled pork, the tilapia and trout sandwiches.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have most of the entrees that are offered in the food court, and very proud of that, and work with great companies like Hatfield and Bell and Evans and Leidy's on all the great products we sell.
And I'm proud to say that I can make the announcement that I know what the special flavor of the milkshake is going to be this year.
Oh, Charlie, everybody knows.
It's an orange cream in addition to vanilla and chocolate.
Yep.
Oh, come on, not everybody. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm a vanilla girl. So,
So, in the last minute, what will PennAg be working on in the near future, besides the things that you mentioned?
Yeah, well, of course, we're going to have a new governor in January, over 50 new members of the legislature.
I hear you're on the transition team.
I am. I'm very happy.
Congratulations.
Appreciate Governor Lex Shapiro allowing me to serve. But really telling Ag's story. That continues to be our #1 priority. We have 253 members of the legislature, and very few of them know much about agriculture or come from that. So our job is to keep them educated and make sure the priorities of agriculture are addressed by the administration and the legislature.
Chris, thank you very much for coming on and sharing this information with our viewers. I think our viewers really benefit so much from understanding Pennsylvania agriculture better, and what better person to talk to than you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And stay tuned with us, and we'll be back next week with a new show on Behind the Headlines. We'll see you then.